How do you guys like my license plate cover? Isn't that awesome? I was gonna do that yesterday, but I forgot. So I got a couple of extra parts I didn't mention. We've got an idle air control valve and a temp sensor we're going to replace. In fact, the one that we have is the wrong one. We're going to exchange that later today. And a quick update from the last video. The new fuel pump I put in this thing is dead. I was kind of going around chasing different circuits and wires and trying to figure out if something, you know, randomly decided to go out, and no, everything's good. Just the new fuel pump that we got is dead, so we have to exchange it for a different one. So that one, I think I'll be able to take that out of there pretty easily. Just bend the tabs with it in the frame and pull it out the one side. I think I can get away with that. So anyways, that's something I'm going to do later today off camera. We won't worry about that, but we're just going to move on. Right now we're gonna replace the idle air control valve and see if that alleviates any idle issues, which I think it will, and see what else we can get into. I'm also going to be replacing the rubber fuel lines that are bubble gum, as you saw in the fuel pump video. I got some multi-fuel biofuel compatible stuff. Really good stuff. 1/4 inch inside diameter, so it'll be a nice snug fit. I told him 2 feet, but I think I'm gonna have to get some more because I think we're gonna need a little bit more. Actually, no. Probably what I'll do is they don't use the rear fuel tank. I'll just replace the lines for the front, and then we'll just call it a day. Anyways, I'll show you the new EGR, new valve. I did put a new fuel pump relay in it, which I thought that's what went out, and that's fine. But it has a new one. So this is our idle air control valve. It does come with a gasket. They've already replaced theirs because we thought that maybe that was an issue. But people like to clean these and think, oh yeah, it's all you got to do is clean it. Like, no, the valve usually works fine. It's the motor that drives it starts to go bad, and it can't move this valve in and out smoothly, or it has a dead spot or whatever, and it just is a pain in the ass. Just replace it. It's like $50, you know. Come on, guys. So it's an 8mm. You got 2 bolts, top, bottom. First of all, we're gonna disconnect the electrical connection. Hopefully I don't break this tab off. Okay, and also when you buy a new one, you want to make sure that you get one that has this, or that your connectors match, because you have California and federal emissions or whatever, so. Yeah, this valve, it's not bad. It's not super dirty. But it had 2 gaskets on it. Electrically? No, es bueno. They've got a thin gasket and a thick gasket. So then this should match up with the holes. Oh yeah, it's perfect. You don't have to go oil can Henry on it. Something like that. Done. I am going to spare y'all the tune-up video because I'm just gonna So this ignition coil wire is not long enough. So I'm having to reuse the old one. So, these are the spark plugs they gave me, 765 Autolites, which I would have recommended the Ford ones because sometimes those are usually cheaper. I don't like Autolite at all. Whatever. So the gap specification on it is .042 to 46. I'm going about 4.7 because that's all I got on this feeler gauge. So I got two different things put together, and these are a little under this size, so I've been kind of just getting in there and working a little bit, and it just barely slips in there and call it good. I find this easier than using the actual spark plug adapter because you're like, it doesn't quite work. You tweak it a tiny bit and it's like, whah, and then it's like the gap's like, an inch, and you're like, God. So that cap and rotor back there, I'm too claustrophobic to take care of that. So I'm sorry, Cameron, you're just gonna have to live with that. The cap and rotor is, more than likely still good. I don't see, it's not causing any issues. So I'm gonna leave that as is. Otherwise, to replace it, I have to pull this intake out so that I can get better access at it, and I don't want to get into that. So, sorry I'm a failure at fixing your truck. So the rear passenger cylinder is really pissing me off. I'm trying to get that, so I threw a couple of tools and was banging stuff. But anyways, they're all good. So this is that rear passenger cylinder. I don't know if you can see it. It's looking a little green. I hope it's not burning coolant. So this one here is also green as well. Check out that plug. Okay, so our tune-up, we got new plug wires, new spark plugs. Just haven't done the cap and rotor. It's just something I don't want to do. We'll have to just pull this intake, and it'll make it so much easier to swap everything out. But I think it's good for right now. So those parts can be returned, as far as I'm concerned. The only thing I'm worried about is I had one wire pop off, and I am worried that I may have mixed a couple of wires. So I may go back and flip them because I think they're already mixed. So I'm gonna do that real quick. And when we get the new fuel pump today, we'll find out if it runs. So here's all the old plugs. They're not bad. They're still decent, but there's a few that you can tell the electrode's getting a little worn. So it's, for as cheap as it is, go ahead and replace them. Yeah, that one's getting a little, oh yeah, it's all worn out on one side. Yeah, so yeah, they needed to be replaced. So that's done. This cap and rotor, I think these can just be returned, or we can keep them. I think this is a rotor. I'll just keep that with them. So that's done. I think the two major things that are left to do are the master cylinder and the power steering pump. This video is going to be kind of a mashup. We did kind of a tune-up deal, and then the next step we're going to do in this video is I'm going to go ahead and just do the brake master cylinder to get that out of the way. I've actually cleared out quite a few parts that I had laying out, because right now the two big things I have are the power steering pump and this guy here. The only thing I really have left to do is to pull that old fuel pump out, or the new one that I put in, and just swap that with a new one, and I'll do that later when my friend gets off work. And then I've got to replace the fuel lines, and I think this will be just enough to get the front tank working properly and flowing good. I think right now we're having a fuel restriction issue, so that's giving it the lack of power. It revs just fine at idle. A little hesitant, but I think with a new working fuel pump, clear lines, and a new fuel filter, having replaced the idle air control valve and the new plugs and wires, I think that will all help make this thing run way better. The other thing I have noticed is that the PCV valve and the little grommet that holds that is worn out. It's all floppy. So that's another thing I'm going to replace. Get that sealed up properly, and I won't have any vacuum leaks. That's another thing that will affect engine performance, reliability, and also fuel economy. Anyways, got this guy here. I normally just put these on willy-nilly and don't even bother bench bleeding them. But this one I think we're going to do that. And looks like they gave me plugs. And I want to save this box. I think there's a core return on this. Or it's a new master cylinder. I'll ask them if they ask for a core return. If not, we'll take apart the old one and goof around with it. So I'm just gonna. Oh yeah, this is the other thing that we got to do. So we're making good progress, I think. We kind of happened to take a couple steps back on a certain thing, but you know these things happen. The other thing I think we're gonna do is replace the headlights because I have some brand new ones from my truck that I didn't use very much, and I ended up just replacing them with HID. So he's going to get new headlight bulbs as a complimentary thing that I like to do sometimes. So I don't really have a knife, so what we do is we use this little nail, right? And we just poke that. That brand new. See, this is nice. I want to convert my truck to an aluminum one like this. Nice clear bottle. You can see how much fluid's in it. So it's funny. Some parts from NAFPA they're like really awesome, and then some you're like it's broken. So yeah, we'll bench bleed this guy, and typically once you get it filled up, it won't actually leak out. Because of the valves that are in it. Now we've actually have quite a bit of brake fluid that I want to use up. I got this stuff, and this will bench bleed with this. In fact, I'll probably bench bleed with this. I like this stuff better. And you don't want to don't prime it while it's dry. Oh yeah, it's got a float in it. Rule of thumb, you typically want to use a fresh bottle when you do this because an old bottle may have moisture in it, especially if it's not sealed properly. Let's see what that does. Hopefully they don't shoot out. That actually took down quite a bit of fluid. Okay, we got fluid coming out of that. I'm actually looking for just straight up fluid to come out of it. Oh, there we go. We got a little bit to go. Okay. I'll put the plug back in. I'm gonna fill it right to the max. Yeah, she's filled to the max. God. Okay. There, we're bled. That's a nice. I mean, the master cylinder that's in it now, you put your front of the brake in, it's just, it's like, it's terrible. I have had to commit acts of sin to get the lines free on this because I don't have a flared wrench. I had to use my vice grips and a towel over this to break that bitch loose. It just would not go. I started to round it off and I was like, no. So I popped her loose. God damn it. So yeah. And then I had to put this wrench in there to hold my thing so I could put 2 hands on it. Harder than it needed to be. Oh yeah, I threw my wrench across the room. It's like, I'll admit, this truck has made me throw... Never mind, I won't say that. I used a torch to heat this up a little bit. I think I'm gonna leave their trailer thing disconnected. I can hook it up later, but it's not even hooked up inside anyway, so it doesn't work. It's the same one that was in my truck, and mine didn't work either. It was all gummed up, so I would recommend they get a new one put in. Go to U-Haul or something. See, that one was easy and it didn't leak, and all the other ones got to be on there like 1,000,000 foot-pounds. Put this towel under here so we don't get any stuff. We don't need to be getting it. Yeah, pretty much all you need is a 14mm and vice grips and a crescent wrench for this job. Ah, crap. The hell out of my way. Oh yeah, don't forget. I expected that thing to break. Okay, look, check that out. We're all hooked up. It's like it's leaking brake fluid right away. It's like it wasn't leaking when I was out. Just gonna clean all that up. I think we're good. I'm gonna put a cap on that. Oh, guy there. All right, let's see. Do we have a brake pedal? Ow. Wait, I think we have a brake pedal, but no, not leaking or anything, so that's good. Well, I'm gonna call that good. However, we're gonna flush the system out, so any air that's in there right now is gonna be taken care of. So that's good. I'm gonna clean up and take a break, and then I'm gonna pull that fuel pump out of there, so that's dealt with.